if in the 14th century Akhenaten could have such monotheistic tendencies, then from around the same period there's no reasonable reason for denying Moses and the Israelites a similar understanding of deity.
As God's chosen prophet, Moses' first duty was to return to Egypt and ask Pharaoh to free the Hebrews. But Pharaoh repeatedly refused to let them leave. According to the Bible, Moses met every refusal by sending a plague upon Egypt.
Ready? Dom.
Blood.
Sipotea.
Frogs.
Kinin.
Rice.
Aro.
Beasts.
Deve.
Flies.
Shochin.
Boils.
Barad.
Hail.
Arabe.
Locusts.
Choshech.
Darkness.
Machas Beforot.
Slaying of the firstborn.
Station wrought by the 10 plagues. Pharaoh relented and freed the Hebrews.
And the Lord led them out of Egypt in a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night.
As the Hebrews began the exodus out of Egypt, the Bible says that Pharaoh changed his mind and chased after them with 600 chariots. It's known from Egyptian reliefs that pharaohs rode chariots, but there are no scenes of an army of chariots. 600 sounds like an exaggeration. But last year, in Kantir, in the site of Pharaoh's capital, German archaeologists discovered this stone. It was a tethering stone, a stone for tying horses to. They had found a stable. Then close by they found this, a hubcap for a chariot wheel. This was a stable for a horse and its chariot. Of course, one chariot does not make an army, so they continued to dig. In the end, they found enough stables to house nearly 500 horses and chariots.
This proves scientifically that the large number of chariots described in historical texts are actually true and cannot be dismissed as impossible.
With the Pharaoh and his chariots in hot pursuit of the Hebrews, the Bible sets the stage for the miracle of the sea.
And the Lord drove the sea back by a strong east wind. And the people of Israel went to the midst of the sea. And Moses stretched forth his hand, and the waters returned and covered the chariots of Pharaoh. Strong east wind. And the waters returned and covered the chariots and all the host of Pharaoh.
There are no official records of the cataclysm. It's not something the Egyptians would have been proud to remember, but an inscription from the time does make an intriguing reference.
When I, Pharaoh, allowed the abomination of the gods, the immigrants, to depart, the earth swallowed their footsteps. This was the directive of the god Nun, the primeval water, who came one day unexpectedly.
Hebrews journeyed into the Sinai wilderness. In the 3rd month, they camped at the foot of the mountain of God. And on the 3rd day, God summoned Moses to the mountain, and God presented Moses with the 10 Commandments.
You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not kill. You shall not steal. And Moses wrote all the words of the Lord, and rose up early in the morning, and built an altar under the hill, and 12 pillars for the 12 tribes of Israel.
Dwellings have been dated to around 2000 BC. This would place the story of the Exodus earlier in time. But Professor Anati believes this conclusion is warranted by the evidence. At the foot of the mountain is a place of worship, also from the same period, an altar with 12 standing stones.
And the Bible says that one day Moses built an altar and 12 pillars for the 12 tribes of Israel. Now, here we have 12 pillars and an altar near a campsite at the foot of the mountain, which is, to me, almost unbelievable.
But perhaps the most remarkable feature is a 2000 BC rock carving found on the plateau. The double-arched outline of the carving is familiar. It's similar to later biblical illustrations of the tablets of the law. But the parallels go even deeper. The carving is divided into precisely 10 squares. Professor Anati believes it's a symbol made by Moses' followers as a reminder of the 10 Commandments.
The more we investigate, the more we discover that the biblical stories regarding Exodus are reliable.
After 40 years wandering in the wilderness, Moses led the Hebrews on their final journey out of Egypt. He never reached the promised land. He died within sight of it. He never reached the promised land. He died within sight of it. And yet the fact remains that Moses completed his extraordinary mission. The achievement offers the first real insight into who Moses was, a brilliant leader of people. Ironically, modern archaeology shows that the story of Moses and the Exodus can no longer be dismissed as the figment of a scribe's imagination. But this leaves one final question. How did the Bible get so many of its facts right? One suggestion is that the Hebrews remembered the story and faithfully passed it down the generations. But there is another, even more remarkable possibility. The evidence from the graffiti in the turquoise mines suggests that the Hebrews could write. It would explain why the archaeological record matches so well the biblical accounts. The bondage of the Hebrews, Moses' upbringing in Pharaoh's palace, the 10 plagues of Egypt, the parting of the Red Sea, and the 10 Commandments. The Bible remains the foundation of faith for 2/3 of the world's population. The modern age is also rediscovering it as a tool for understanding history.